just I am, she not a family. I am conscious, I am, just a TURTLEGANG to represent. I sing a song of victory, I sing a song of love. I get it from the ancients and tell me feel it up. I sing a song of victory, I sing a song of love. I get it from the ancients and tell me to the top.
Well, I go to our peace. Welcome to TGE. Where we spit that fire,
that flame.
where the truth needs no apology. TGE, Dragon TV.
I get it from the ancient and tell me turn it up. I sing a song of victory, I sing a song of love. I get it from the ancient and tell me fill the cup. I sing a song of victory, till we victorious. Yeah, victorious. I sing a song of victory, till we victorious.
Well, I have my Mardi Gras Indian brother, also Aboriginal Indigenous brother of the Washita Mardi Gras Indians. He is the chief drummer, and if you ever seen any of my posts on Facebook, you see us up there bringing the chief in and bringing the nation in.
True that.
So go ahead on and introduce yourself to the people, let the people and them be known.
Once and for all, my name is ERIC B, aka Rasta Don, here in New Orleans, and I'm the drum chief for the Washita Nation Mardi Gras Indians. We've been masking and parading for the past 7 years since we broke away from what was called the Yellow Pocahontas. My chief is Big Chief David Montana, who is the nephew of the great Alice and Tootie Montana, which is, as you can see, we have these elaborate suits behind us, and they're not costumes, they're called suits, Indian suits.
Or regalia.
Or regalias, you know. And it was an honor for us to have the name Washita, which was given to us by the Empress herself, you know, and also your family member, your cousin Joe. And the reason they let us use the name was to bring awareness to Native Black Americans that don't know very little about their history and who they are. So we're kind of like waking up New Orleans, you know.
In a big way.
In a very big way.
Because we have been, you know, you have many tribes that have been massacred since the later part of the late 1800s.
Exactly.
And, you know,
we started with the Creole Wild West.
The Creole Wild West, yes, that's also known and everything. And most people say, oh, they got the Creole Wild West from the so-called
the
Wild Bill
show, and it got all kind of stigmas about how it actually came to be. Some say it came from the name, the Wild West Bill, the Wild Bill Wild West show. Some say that the reason, because the question is always asked, why do we do what we do? And some say the reason is to pay homage to the Native Americans that help us escape from the bondage of slavery. And then there are those that are truly indigenous
to this land
already. You know, when they speak of, you know, us being amongst the Native Americans and being able to escape slavery, you had to realize we had to look like them, and they had to look like us for us to be able to blend in with them.
And how is it that we blend in? Do you mind if we give them a little sample of how we blended in with the Mardi Gras Indian press song? Can we do that? We can do that right there. We go break out the drums.
The drums.
We go break out the drums.
Let's find some sticks. Oh, here the sticks are. You know, and
What other stick said?
but this is also called the Institute for the Imaginations, where we teach young kids in the neighborhood how to play the Mardi Gras Indian rhythms. We teach them the culture, we teach them the tradition. We also teach them how to sew these suits that we make. A lot of kids come in here and their eyes get bright when they see it, and they be like, "Oh, I want to do that." Well, for those that want to, we have a place where they are able to do this. And once again, it's called the Institute for the Imagination, along with Washington Nation Mardi Gras Indian Inc. You about ready, bro?
I'm
He's strapping up.
I'm strapping up.
He's strapping up the
So
drum.
we didn't
He's
have to
also
stand. Somebody took down the stand.
one of the standard drummers for Washington Nation. And every year for Mardi Gras time, this is when all the Mardi, see, before we didn't have Mardi Gras. We had what they call carnival, like you would have in the Caribbean islands and South America. You would have carnivals, you know. So we wasn't allowed to go in and participate with Mardi Gras with the Europeans. So we had to do our own thing. And so Mardi Gras Day is when you will see Indians, Bone and Skull Gang, and a couple of other, the Zulu Parade. This was all our thing, which was African American, Black American, Black Native American, however you want to put it. This was our thing that we did when I was a child growing up. And we're carrying on the history of Carnival. Instead of Mardi Gras Indians, we're going to call them Carnival Indians for a minute right now. Are we ready?
We ready. Indian red, Indian red.
Oh, we are black. That song there starts off every Mardi Gras Indian parade, every event we do, we always start off with the Indian Red Prayer.
And that's how they couldn't tell us apart, because we were Indian Red.
Right.
If you know what Indian Red is, they would call it a chestnut brown.
Yeah.
Right?
Chestnut brown.
They call that Indian Red chestnut brown. Or we say coffee.
Yeah.
Right? Or taffy. Right? So, or copper. Because you know, you take caramel and you put it in that pot and you add a little water You got on that fire, it's gonna turn caramel like that copper.
That's right.
You know, and even down here in New Orleans, when we see a fine young lady who's caramel, we call her a what? That's a red bone.
Oh yeah, the red bone.
That's a red bone.
See, I was gonna go with the official name Creole, but we call them red bone.
And we know that the Creole is either a French man taking an Aboriginal Indigenous woman or a Spanish man taking an Aboriginal Indigenous woman, and therefore had a child that became known as free people of color.
In New Orleans.
In New Orleans.
Okay, and also in New Orleans, you had a place called Congo Square, where nowhere else in the United States were African enslaved people able to not only make money for themselves to buy their freedom, but also to trade amongst each other, drum amongst each other, and they would gather and meet in this place called Congo Square, which was...
And what was the reason why they had to be put in that area of Congo Square?
I don't know, you tell me.
Well, there was an edict or ordinance in the city.
Exactly.
And what happened is, after every Sunday, from going to church, Catholic Church, right? The French Catholic Church, the Spanish Church.
Yeah.
So, you know, everybody was thinking that they was harsh on their slaves, but that wasn't like that all the time. But when they saw us doing these chants and dancing and everything, that actually scared their motherfucking ass. So you have that going all around different parts of New Orleans, and they're like, man, look, we don't know if these motherfuckers gonna do a revolt or what, so we gonna put them in one stationary area. And that's where Congo Square came about. Which they didn't stop anything, because the 1811 slavery revolt still fucking kicked off.
Yeah, it still manifests itself. You will also find Native Americans in Congo Square too. So the root and the ancestors that were in Congo Square till this day is very, very, very important to us. And we do many, many drum circles, many dances still till this day in Congo Square. Now where we are right now is called Bayou Road. And as far as my knowledge, from what I have read, this is the oldest street in New Orleans. That's why it still has bricks on it. You know, this was the route that the Native Americans would take from the swamp and the bayou and the lake to get to the river. And this right here, this area, particular area right here, was where they would all gather to mingle.
Trading post.
It was the trading post for the Native Americans. You know, if you needed to get a wife or you needed to get a husband,
This
is where they came to negotiate that, to, you know, for you to be able to carry on with a family. You met, they traded everything right here in this sacred ground. So, and as you can see, it has a 7-point entrance, and it's like a crossroad right here. They said that it was the highest part of the city. Because, you know, you down by the river rise and then go down. They didn't have dams and all that they have there now to stop the water from coming in. I mean, literally, French quarters before they built it, that was just all swampy land. You know, then this is where you would find the majority of the Native Americans of this area coming to gather together to meet and trade.
Because by the Trimy area, before it became known as Trimy area, that was actually a Chata village. That was a village right there, and then they had one that's back here by the lakefront, you know, by the bayou. And most people don't know that, you know, and we just was talking, as y'all heard us in the previous conversation, that, you know, we used to have our skip outs on there. Most people thought it was a hill, but my grandmother and grandfather used to bring me there all the time and go fishing while sitting on the mound and catch a lot of good perch. Rainbow perch.
To this day, I love me some perch.
Yeah, if you don't know what a perch is, it's a small fish about this big, or this thing. You can fry the whole thing and eat it with the bones and everything. Put some hot sauce on that thing. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
a Louisiana tradition, perch.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, so I mean, you had a lot of people. You know, when you asked them, you know, why do you dress as a Mardi Gras Indian? And once you take off the regalia, and you ask them, you know, who are you? They say, I'm African American. Like, hold on, really? You're like, man, I was there playing Indian. No, you're not playing Indian, man. You know, you are what your mother is. If your mother was Aboriginal, Indigenous, or Native American, or American Indian, and you had African father, but you dealt with your mother's side of the family, you know, and that's how everything happened. And especially in New Orleans, you had mostly all your royals from Spain and France came here, and they married indigenous women.
That's right.
You know, you had families.
Free women
of color, you know,
you had a lot of them that owned various property all up and down what is Canal Street. They had the property. They owned the property. I mean, you know, when we talk with Beverly McKenna, her people goes back into the free people of color. You know.
And what's the sister who had the boutique over next door with the baby doll? Cause she speak about the
you're talking about Gumbo Marie Gumbo.
Yeah.
Gumbo Marie. Yeah, she one of those babies. That's another entity of our carnival that we would have was baby dolls, and I would advise y'all to catch up with a couple of them while you're down there and let them tell you their story, because it's also traditional in New Orleans, you know.
Yeah. So, and most people want to know why it takes so long to do a regalia for a whole year.
Well, if you come in and come in closer, we'll look at this suit here. This is the white buffalo suit. Every last one of these stones, every last one of these beads is hand sewn. Everything you see here is handmade. I mean, from the smallest bead to the biggest stone, everything is handmade. So it takes us a year to get it right and to build these suits. You know, the song goes, every year for carnival time, we make a new suit. Well, this is the reason why, because it takes you almost a year to get these suits right, to get them elaborate, and to put all these different designs, all these different colors into it. And we call that sew. Every day we gotta sew. Every day you gotta sew if you want a mask. I mean, your fingers bleed, you got blood on it, you have sweat on it, you have tears on it, and sometimes you be like, I don't wanna do it no more. But then you look at what you've accomplished and you realize the artisticness in you. Because to me, every Mardi Gras Indian is beautiful. If you take that time out to sew, to learn how to sew these suits and to sew these suits, then yes, you are pretty. And that's the main thing about us coming, when we say coming out, we're coming out to the streets. We go and meet the elders that can't go to the parades. We go to their house and we perform for them in front of their homes, and they enjoy it, they love it. We bring it to the schools where the kids are getting involved in it, and they're just like fascinated with the rhythms. All of them love to play the drum. The drum is like captivating of kids. They just love to be able to beat on something. So we give them the rhythms and teach them how to play these rhythms. And the ones that want to learn how to sew, we teach them how to sew. Right here we have a child suit. This is a young queen. We call them queens. This is a baby queen suit, which represents the white buffalo too, as you can see. And all this is handmade. Each feather is clipped at the tip, placed in a certain fashion so that the design will spread out. We use all different type of feathers, plumes, hackles, mirable, tips. We use different things to make this suit come alive. And when you put this suit on, you become a totally different person.
That's just a takeover.
Yeah, the ancestors, the spirits come in on you, and depending on what position you playing, you become that ancestor. You know, we start off with the spy boy. That's the one that's out front. He's searching, looking for other tribes, looking for other, we call them gangs. He's looking for other gangs.
Sure, there's no danger.
You know, back in the days, it used to be very dangerous. Now we have quieted down the violence in it. But back in the days, mothers didn't want you to mask. At least my mom didn't want me to mask because she didn't know if her son was coming home that night. After doing Mardi Gras Day, you know. I mean, it was very rough out there on Indians, and if another tribe didn't get you, then the police would beat you. So, you know, you had it coming from either way, and you had to be very careful about what you was doing out there. So after you have the spy boy out front, he drawing signals. We never really talk to each other. We do hand signals where we communicate throughout the gang. The next person you're going to see in that gang is the flag boy. Now the flag boy, his responsibility is to put that flag up in the air and show what tribe I am. I'm Washington Nation, Coochie Mali. I'm going to put my flag all the way up. I stick it in the ground, won't bow down. That's the flag boy. He making sure everybody that see us know what tribe they looking at. After you have the flag boy, then you have what we call the gang flag. Now the gang flag is very, very, very important because he's the one that's going to carry out all the chief orders. Whatever the chief wants the tribe to do, the gang flag is going to make sure that the tribe is doing it. Then you may have some queens, you know, some females that are in the tribe. And their thing is to make sure the papoose, the squads take care of the papooses, and they making sure the kids we have masking with us are straight, they're in line, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They make sure that we are a tight-knit group. After that, you have what they call the wild man. Wild man, he the one that clears everything out for the big chief. Wherever he's the protector of the big chief. Nobody meets the big chief unless the wild man let him come through. Big chief gonna tell him, clog that hole. I mean, nobody can come through that. You know, big chief say, open that hole up and let me through. He gonna make sure, he gonna push you back, do whatever he gotta do to clear you out the way so his chief can continue moving on. Then you have what we call the big chief. The big chief is the leader of the tribe. His crown is the biggest crown in the tribe. His crown can be seen 3-4 blocks down when he's coming up the street. He's usually the last one you see in the tribe. And then after you see the big chief, you're going to have, what am I? The drum chief. I'm behind the big chief. I'm providing the rhythm to keep him moving, to keep him walking. I'm the one that's going to make sure that you hear us before you see us. Chawa. And that's just a little brief history on the Mardi Gras Indian culture.
Don't forget about the medicine man.
Oh yeah, you have medicine men, you have medicine queen, you have witch doctors. We have all these different entities in what we know. Sometimes you may see a tribe that's 17, 18 people.
Deep.
You know, they might have 5 spies, 4 flags, you know, cool queens. But you gotta have all of them lined up. And when you see them feathers coming down the street, whether it's Mardi Gras Day or St. Joe, which is another day that the Indians come out, it's St. Joseph night. We all come out on St. Joe night, which is always March 19th. And you get to see all the Indians that you didn't get to see Mardi Gras Day because you was doing something else, partying, drinking, whatever. You catch them on St. Joe. And then we also have what they call Super Sundays, where we have an uptown Super Sunday, we have a downtown Super Sunday, we have a West Bank Super Sunday, and that's when all the Indians gather up to parade around that specific community, showing love to each community. And what we try to do with these Super Sunday is bring all the Indians together and show the unity and harmony in the Mask and Mardi Gras Indians.
Yeah.
Actually, this white buffalo suit, they have National Bison Day, and it's very sacred to the Native Americans up north and Native Americans in the west. And the coming of the white buffalo symbolizes a new beginning. You know, by we shedding away all this crazy and madness that we've been going through. So it's supposed to be a new beginning. And it just so happened that even before the white buffalo was born, that suit was being made. And we was not tuned into it, didn't know nothing about it until after we put the suit on the streets. It's when we actually found out the significance of the white buffalo. And it was pretty amazing. That suit there traveled many places because it symbolizes the white buffalo. But it's a spiritual thing with the Native Americans, and it's meaning the beginning of the new. It's a new beginning.
Peace.
In peace, yeah.
And there's no bearing on complexion.
No.
White is not a term that
No.
signifies complexion or the actual color.
Actually, it was. See the color of the darker feathers? That's actually it's the color of the white buffalo.
White buffalo.
Yeah, it's not a white buffalo. It's actually a
Off-white.
creamish color. You know, but that's what they called it, the white buffalo. You know, because of its albino look. You know, but it was very sacred to the Native Americans and the Indigenous people. And as I said, we didn't even know. We was just building the suit. And when we put it out there, and then all this information came back in, and then it was what, January, I think it was, either December or January, right before Mardi Gras, is when this white buffalo calf was born. I think in your area, it was up in your area, around that area up there.
Well, they had many white buffaloes that was born, but it was killing them. It was killing them.
Yeah, actually, I think I've seen a couple of news reports where they make like, oh, white buffalo was born, and they slide in real quick.
They slide on, and push it out the way because they don't want you to know what's going. What's that? That's their main, European main. I call it the gunpowder. You know, the less we know, the more they can control us in our mind. You know, so we definitely have to do our homework, do our research.
Every civilized nation, civilized, dwell on that word for a while. Every civilized nation in the world is governed by these 6 Aboriginal treaties that make up all international law. Hence, from them come the law of nations, which has clan mothers who hold territorial rights. In order to be part of these treaties, you would have to belong to a tribal unit that was ruled by the Casa Someses, which is known in international law as clan mothers, or the women. So the women were the law. And for some of us, this is the truth. When you put back a tribal government, you have to look at who it is that selects anyone to speak on behalf of the representative of a territory upon this earth. And it must be a man, but that man must be appointed by as they say in Europe and in international law, this must be done by the constitutional basis. She must appoint the man. Otherwise, it's not acceptable in international law. Today, Indians have a lot of trouble because they no longer know who they are.